Breaking news. The Cubs have made moves in free agency. Sports Talk Chicago. Here with Jon Zaghloul. In this video, we're going to break down the Cubs' big moves, what it means for them moving forward, and how excited you should be if you're a Cubs fan. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, set up notifications so you don't miss a thing. We talk Chicago sports daily. We have interviews with former players, former Cubs players, former Bears players, and media members who cover every single team here in Chicago. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports, Facebook Jon Zaghloul. Want to watch more of this show? Head on over to sportstalkchicago.com. I want to start today with this. Color me shocked. In the best way possible, though. I did not expect the Cubs to spend serious money this offseason. Didn't know they were at that point in their rebuild. They're stunning everybody. They are being bold. They're making moves that other people didn't see coming. The Ricketts are spending money on this team. What year is it? Not 2015 or 2016. It's 2022, and there are real resources being poured into this team that were not poured into it before. There's hope. There's a future. There's a vision, once again. I'll break down the signings in just a second. I'm a little bit timid on one of them. But I think there's an overarching theme that needs to be discussed and covered. Regardless of if these signings are good, or if the Cubs strike out, or if they hit gold with any of these moves, the fact is they're spending money again. And to me, that's all that matters. It would suck if these signings don't pan out, and they are going to be criticized justly if they don't. But I think it's worth saying in this moment, we should all be excited. If you're a Cubs fan, you should be excited about these moves being made. There is spending. There is a passion. There is a vision. There is a desire to put resources into this team and actually win games. Don't know if it's going to happen. Don't know if these signings will be conducive to winning, but we do know this. This is not the same rebuilding team that we saw 2 years ago, even last year. The Cubs are committed to spending money, and they're committed to this team being better in 2023. Doesn't mean they're going to be a World Series team already or even a playoff team, but I do say they're going to be a competitive team, a team that should be reaching for a wild card spot, reaching for the division, considering how weak it is. I think that's the biggest takeaway from these moves. You could evaluate and criticize every single signing the Cubs make. We're going to evaluate and criticize the Bellinger and Taillon signings, but in general, overarching theme, the Cubs are spending money again. That should be cause for celebration more than anything. These moves could be total crapshoots. They could totally not work out, and it would suck. But I'll tell you what, I'd rather them spend money and strike out than put their hands under their pants and sit there and do nothing. There's at least an attempt at competition, an attempt at putting resources back into this team and building them to be some sort of contender in 2023. Whether that be just a playoff spot or even more, the fact is resources and money are being poured into this team. And that's exciting. That's fun to watch. And that's something that should be celebrated from this Cubs team. I never thought I'd see the day so quickly, too. I was expecting a 3 to 4, maybe even 5-year rebuild, and I was okay with it knowing that this team was going to be building their farm system back up and trying to replicate what they did in 2016. A lot of Cubs fans didn't like it. A lot of people said the Ricketts were cheap. I was one of the few who said this is good stuff. This is responsible. This is smart. And yet they're kind of bashing their own timeline and making it quicker, making it easier for the Cubs to be winners in 2023 and beyond. That is exciting. That is amazing. Because I didn't expect that to happen so soon. I didn't expect that to become the Cubs calling card next year already. And by the way, they're not done spending money as of this taping. Offseason's still a long time to go. And the Cubs could spend more money and acquire more players via free agency in these next 2.5 to 3 months. But they've already made big moves, 2 big moves, one to bolster their starting rotation and the other to bolster their lineup. Jameson Taillon and Cody Bellinger have been signed by the Cubs. Taillon, a 4-year, $68 million deal with the Cubs on Tuesday, and Bellinger, a 1-year, $17.5 million deal. Only a 1-year flyer for Bellinger. Apparently, David Ross said about Bellinger, quote, he's a really good fit from a perspective of it's a great defense, great base running, left-handed bat with the potential to have an uptick offensively. Meanwhile, Taillon did pretty good the past 2 years in New York. A 3.91 ERA the past season in 177 innings pitched. So these aren't perfect signings. I want to be very upfront with that. Taillon, formerly a Pittsburgh Pirate and actually faced the Cubs a couple of times as he was younger, went through a couple of injuries, Tommy John surgeries, and has come back relatively strong. This past year, I was pretty impressed. 14-5, 3.91 ERA, 177 innings pitched, 151 strikeouts. So he was durable after the surgery. Did much better than 2021 with a 4.30 ERA, so there's signs of improvement. And at his best, he is a potential Cy Young candidate. In 2018, a 3.20 ERA with the Pirates, 191 innings pitched, 180 strikeouts. That's quality number 2 or number 3 starter stuff. And in this Cubs rotation with so many young guys, some of them being bullpen pieces, some of them being swingmen, without knowing their role, you now know you have a starting pitcher. May not be the best, may not be an ace, but he will be a number 3, number 2 maybe. You acquired somebody solid who did not break the bank at 4 years, $68 million. Probably could have gone for much more had he had even a slightly better year. So you got Taillon at a discount. Didn't have to pay too much. And you bring in a real bona fide starter who has real experience in baseball and has been around for a long, long time. That's the exciting part. I could not be happier with the Taillon signing. The one that I have a problem with a little bit is Cody Bellinger. And here's why. Everybody's been freaking out. Go Cubs, go Cody Bellinger. Oh my gosh, it's such a big deal. You do realize he's not the MVP of 2019 anymore, right? This is so similar to the Chris Bryant saga. Everybody loved Chris Bryant, yet he hadn't done good in 4 or 5 years. And Bellinger, ever since 2019, has hit the following: 239, 165, and 210. The Cubs paid $17.5 million for somebody who hit 210 last year, with 19 home runs in 144 games. That is a different story. Now, I get you're taking a flyer on him, and maybe he turns out great and I'll look like an idiot by September. But on paper, that was not a good move. That's a waste of money. Should have been spent some other way. Could have grabbed somebody else, anybody else for that situation. I mean, really, 210, you could have done way better than that. Spending $17.5 million on somebody who hit 210 with 19 home runs, somebody who's not had a good year since 2019, somebody who's struggling to hit above 200 for the majority of last year and for the majority of his career now. Newsflash, Bellinger is not 2019 Bellinger. So the Cubs need to do a better job at understanding how much money they're giving out and for what purpose. Giving him $17.5 million for that's like flushing money down the toilet. And there's a chance he turns it back on. There's a chance he reinvents his career here. I have my doubts. The Dodgers barely used him last year. Didn't use him enough. They didn't want to use him. He was the liability in the lineup. He was hitting 9th every night, 8th every night. Did nothing to contribute to that operation over there. Now he comes here. Oddly reminiscent of the Cubs signing of Jock Peterson, granted for much less money, but the same kind of thing. Peterson, 1 year, $8 million, traded him, wins the World Series, of course, but he did bad in a Cubs uniform. And Bellinger is on a real low trajectory of his career. The Cubs pay him $17.5 million to come in and do something, anything. That is a problem. I don't get the hype. I think there's the hype because people think of 2019 and I think of the Dodgers and what a great team. But in reality, Cody Bellinger has been a liability for Los Angeles for 3 years. 3 years he's been a liability. He hasn't been anything productive or good or helpful. He's been a problem for them. He's been a thorn in their side. He has held them back. And the Cubs reward him for doing that. That is an issue. And that's where I stand on that signing. I am not happy about that one. There's always the possibility he does well. There's always the possibility he turns things around, but I don't see it. I see another 200 to 220 type season with maybe 25 home runs, and that is not worth $17.5 million. No way. That's a joke. It was a dumb signing by the Cubs. It really was. How can you justify bringing somebody in for that much money who has performed so little? Nevertheless, at the end of the day, the real positive part of this whole thing is that the Cubs are spending money. I may not agree with the money they spend and who they spend it on. I may not agree with some of these contracts they're giving out, but I do agree that this team's going to be competitive and they're trying to be better and they're trying to better themselves. And I'd rather see them spend money and lose than sit on their hands and lose. They're actually making an attempt to be better. Now, whether or not it works, different story. Whether or not I agree with all this money being given out to somebody like Cody Bellinger, different story. But I do agree that there is a sense of urgency. There is a sense of we can win now. There is a sense of encouragement and looking forward to the future. That's exciting. The Cubs have done a good job at fast-tracking their own process for the rebuild. And I think they should be celebrated for that. Everybody bashed the Cubs 2 years ago, and they traded away everybody. Everybody bashes the Ricketts family for not spending enough money. You really can't say anything now. If they're paying Cody Bellinger $17.5 million, they are willing to spend, trust me. So that's a start. May not agree with every single contract given out, may not agree with Cody Bellinger, but I agree in the sense that they're being competitive and they actually care now about their on-the-field product and winning. That's all you can ask for if you're a Cubs fan. That's all you can ask for if you're a baseball fan, if you're a Chicago fan. Stop seeing these teams mired in mediocrity and owners who are unwilling to make changes. The Cubs have shown now that they are willing to make changes, they are willing to be better, and they are willing to put money and resources into this historic franchise. I have no problem with that, and I have no issue with that. Cubs have been tied to more starting pitching help, maybe another bat. In other news, Willson Contreras has left for the Cardinals on a 5-year deal. Shame on you, Jed Hoyer. Not for letting him go, but for not trading him like we talked about in the middle of the season, by the way. Please keep Willson Contreras. Everybody, please keep him. You know what? Had the Cubs traded him at that time, they would have gotten so much back, and instead, it's the Cubs who are losing now. They get nothing back for him, and the Cardinals pay him. Remember, it's a business. You may have personal affections towards certain players, like the whole Bellinger hype. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and if you don't perform, you're going to face the consequences. And for the Willson Contreras situation, the Cubs should have traded him. Nobody wanted it to happen. Everybody was heartbroken. They put feelings over facts, and look what happened. Now he's gone. 5-year deal, Cardinals, gone. Cubs get nothing back for him in return. Could have traded him, gotten a huge haul back prospect-wise, but nope, everybody said, keep Willson, don't trade Willson, what a joke, they're tanking. Yet look at them now. They're spending real money, and now they don't have Willson Contreras. Probably should have traded him. But, again, nobody's going to be perfect, and everybody will make a mistake. As long as you make a mistake trying, I'm more okay with that than making a mistake and doing nothing. The Cubs are actively trying. Whether or not they make the right call is a different story. Time will tell whether or not these signings were right and were justified. Based on history, the Bellinger one, not so much. Taillon was a good one, though. I like that signing. But the real truth is, they're spending money, and guess what? They're competitive again. The Cubs, the same team that just won the 2016 World Series, is actually competitive again. So if there's one takeaway you have from any of these signings, good or bad, critical or not critical, it's the fact that money is being spent again. There's excitement. There's an idea that there could be winning in 2023 and a bright future to come. So no matter how you feel about these moves, remember the Cubs are planning on being competitive. And that's the first time we've said that in many years here in Chicago. Thanks for watching today's show here on YouTube. Really appreciate the time. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports, Facebook, Jon Zaghloul. Want to watch more of this show? Head on over to sportstalkchicago.com. So long, everyone.